feel like in my heart I want to be a wrestler. We'll see what happens when this football's done, but yeah, I would love to.
Would you be a wrestler or a wrestler?
May start out as a wrestler, and then you get your promos going and you get that mean streak in, and then you become a wrestler.
Hey everybody, what's up? Trey Wingo here. Welcome into another episode of Half Forgotten History Season 2. By now you know the drill. It's all about Super Bowl champs. And we have a special guest for you this week, a current player whose story is pretty remarkable. We'll get to him in a minute, but we're also partnering with DraftKings in Season 2 to help you enjoy your sporting experience, maybe just a little bit. So make sure you use the promo code WINGO when you use and download the DraftKings app. As I said, our guest this week is a guy who's currently on the field, who devolved in his career into major success. Started out as a quarterback, then went to a tight end, defensive end, and eventually a first-round draft pick as an offensive lineman and a Super Bowl champ along the way. I'm talking about none other than the future wrestling superstar and current offensive lineman, Lane Johnson. Lane, first and foremost, thanks for being with us. And I guess the big question is, you healthy? You good? You coming back from the ankle injury?
All good. Rehabbing. I should be full in about a month. I'm starting to do some running now, so they're telling me late April should be full go. Late April, early May.
If we have OTAs this year, you'll be participating.
Yeah, if we have OTAs, I'll be there.
Before we go any further, we need to set up where you are, because if people are watching this, they're seeing some weird stuff behind you. You're in what you call your bro barn, which is basically a gym that used to be a horse barn.
A renovated horse barn. Yeah, so we got it. This creepy mansion place behind my house owned all this property back here, and they own this creepy horse barn too. So we ended up fixing it up, put a gym in here, and since the COVID hit, it's been pretty useful as far as, guys being able to come out here if they're not able to go into the facility. So it's come in handy.
Now, you're a big dude from Texas. So what makes this a creepy horse barn? I mean, are there certain barriers that it has to qualify to get that status?
It was old. I first got in here and just had cobwebs everywhere. And then the big mansion behind me looks like something out of the movie The Conjuring or something, just has a weird vibe. High-pitched roofs, just not a good feeling.
Well, I'm glad you say that, because I spent an early part of my career in the sort of area where you are outside of Philadelphia. And when you get remote outside of Philadelphia, there are weird vibes in the backwoods of Pennsylvania and Jersey, right?
Yeah, just a lot of old history. And you can sense it when you're walking around that area.
Yeah, sometimes I just felt the need to always look over my shoulder. What's going on around here? You just get that vibe sometimes in that place.
Exactly.
All right, so the vibe for the season for the Eagles was not what you guys wanted. How frustrating was the season for you guys with what you thought was going to happen and the way it played out?
Very frustrating. 4-11-1, probably one of the worst seasons that we've ever had. But I mean, as far as the transitions and stuff that we made so far, I feel like we're not done. It's been good for the team. I thought the Carson Wentz trade benefited him, benefited us. I know he's in a good place with Frank Reich in Indianapolis, and then the draft's coming up. Who knows what's going to happen? And really, man, we're just trying to get ready for OTAs, and it's all kind of, playing it by ear. So we're just checking email updates every now and then and seeing what our schedule is.
Yeah. When you say the draft is coming up and nobody knows what's going to happen, the Eagles checked that box last year. Really? Jalen Hurts in the second round. That had to surprise a lot of people. What did you think when that happened?
Yeah, I was surprised by the pick, but then, as you mark up your years in the NFL, you see a lot of crazier stuff. But, what impressed me about Jalen is how he handled his whole transition from Alabama to Oklahoma. I thought he handled it with a bunch of class. And then, coming here as a rookie last year, got some experience. But, he's a hard worker. He's a very confident guy. And he can do a lot for us with his legs and his arm.
When he had his opportunities, I thought he played pretty well. But it was a pretty small sample size.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles make the decision based on a much larger sample size to move on from Carson. As you said, he goes to Indianapolis when the trade can become official, to now be there. What was it like seeing that play out and sort of trying to figure out what was happening?
Well, a lot of it, I was out of the building. I was injured, but just watching it, the offense never could really get a rhythm. So when nothing's happening, there is no progression. You got to try new things, and that's what happened. And I thought Carson handled it very well, handling the whole Jalen situation. And then the offseason came around and whatever happened. But like you said, he played, a few games, a sample size. But, in an ideal world, we would like to have these OTAs going, get some some throws in with the receivers, get those guys working, and then, you know, so we can go into training camp a little bit better off than what we did last year.
You've been around for a while now, since you were drafted in 2013, so you know how crazy this business is. But if I had told you like a week after you guys had won Super Bowl 52, hey, I got a prop bet for you, 10-1 odds. I bet by the time we start the 2021 season, both Carson Wentz and Doug Pederson won't be on the Philadelphia Eagles. You would have thought I was crazy.
Yeah, and, you know, a kind of similar situation or you know, happened whenever with Chip and, you know, releasing Deshaun and LaShawn that year. I think it was 2013 or 2014, and that was kind of shock. And I remember that's like the last time I remember, you know, feeling like that, just going, wow, this is a crazy business that we're in. But it happens. You're seeing a lot of trades and stuff happening now. Veterans on the market, free agency. So it's that time every year. We know what time it is. So
this year's going to be weirder than anything because of the salary cap situations and what's going on. But have you ever look around in Philadelphia and say, well, Chris Long's not here. I don't know if Zach Ertz is going to be here. Carson is gone. My head coach is gone. Malcolm Jenkins is in New Orleans. Where did everybody go?
It's like Survivor, and there's only a few left on the island. Yeah, man, it's, you know, just me and I guess Zach and I left in 2013 class. I don't know if he's going to be back or what's happening. A lot of trade speculation, and I think you have Fletch before me, and then BG, and then Kels. I think those are the three oldest, or they're a little bit older than me. Fletch is younger than me, so we're getting on up there.
Only in this business and only playing in this game can you be considered getting up there at your age, right? In any other place, you'd be you're good. You're in the prime of your career. Everything's fine. And now you have to look around and say, wait a minute, who's coming behind me here? It's kind of like being in the woods of Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, you have outliers like the Larry Fitzgeralds of the world, the Tom Brady's of the world who are pushing an envelope. Andrew Whitworth, 38, 39. So there's guys that have been doing it for a while. So as you get older, you take inspiration from them. You take the energy from the young guys that are coming in and try to ball it up and do the best you can.
We'll get to Brady in a little bit because I don't know if you heard, he won another Super Bowl.
No, I did.
Yeah, well, this just in, I'm breaking some news to you. So we'll get to that later. But your journey to me was fascinating because in terms of a football player, one could argue you devolved into success, right? Because you were a high school quarterback and tight end. So you go play JUCO at Kilgore. For those that don't know, Kilgore Rangers, phenomenal program in Texas. And then you get to Oklahoma. You start there as a quarterback and a tight end. Then you go defensive end, tight end. Then you go right tackle to left tackle. And I think a lot of people would say, how does one guy go from being a JUCO quarterback to end up being a starting right and left tackle at a Big 12 program? That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, well, the first 2 years, I mean, I was with Kevin Wilson, who's at Ohio State now, the offensive coordinator. He was my tight ends coach. So our practices were very physical. So that was probably the toughest transition year, probably my football career. Just I wasn't getting any playing time, just practicing, getting my teeth kicked in the dirt. But, you know, as I started getting older, they do the bod pod test every year, and they measure like the width of your shoulders and your hips and all this. And so when I first got in, my frame was like 270. And then by the end of my second year, he was like, well, it looks like you're going to be playing O-line. And I didn't want to hear that at the time. And so I kept playing tight end. I played a few games at DN, didn't know what I was doing, didn't really know the schematics of it. And then going to my junior year, one of our tackles gets injured, and during spring drill, they moved me over, and man, I treated it like basketball. And then 2 weeks in, Stoops was like, man, you could be a first round pick. I believe you can. And once I heard that, that's all I needed, that vote of confidence. But it was a weird transition going from a quarterback, you have the ball in your hands, you're making plays, to, you're solely there to help out your team. But what I like about it, I love the O-line group. I love the guys. I just, it's a lot of fun for me. I love being around the guys.
When Bob tells you, hey, I think you can be a first round pick, that obviously sold it. But at that point, from a guy who played quarterback and was either going to sack the quarterback or catch the ball from the quarterback, going to an offensive lineman, when you first heard the news, what you were like, no, right? No, that's a hard pass for me.
He was talking about it earlier in the spring, and I was like, I'm not last thing I want to do is do that. Just give it all up and go to O-line. But, I was second, third string at defensive end, and it was actually Mark Mangino, who was he actually moved Jamal Brown, who was a defensive tackle, to offensive tackle. So he's done it before, and I think he's the one that put the word in for Coach Stoops to do it to me. So Thanks, Mangino, wherever you're at.
Well, it's worked out for you. You've gotten a couple of decent kicks at the can of the contract. So, although we're always, the word we always hear in the NFL is restructuring, and I always like to say restructuring means one of two things: either we're moving the money around to fit the cap, or someone's taking a haircut. Right? Those are the only two options. When you hear restructure, there's only one of two options, and people read that all the time. Like, oh, he got his contract restructured, but the player's like, yeah, let me tell you what that actually means, because sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it sucks.
Yeah, well, sometimes they move it into signing bonus or move it in a way to where it's not affecting the cap. So there's different ways of doing it. Sometimes they backload contracts. It just depends on the year they have. But I think this will be my third year doing it. So, hey, man, we're lucky. We're playing football. We're playing the kids' game for a living. So it's all good. So my main focus is just staying injury-free. And when I'm playing, I know I'll do good things. So that's really where my focus at. And then just ready to meet the coaches. We kind of talked to a few of them, small talk where we're at. I guess the word was we're supposed to be back in April sometime, but who knows? How much conversation have you had, if any, with the coaching staff? Yeah, I talked to Coach Sirianni one time. So basically he's asking where are you at right now? How's everything going? Just kind of small talk. And then, I think we'll get more formally introduced here in a couple of weeks, I guess, when we're back. You know how this thing goes, right? Everyone sees one thing and they have a massive reaction to it. So, Coach Sirianni had that initial press conference, and there were some clips that people thought he didn't quite eloquate or say the things the right way, and he wanted to. And a lot of people tearing into him for that, and it's understandable and all that kind of stuff. But it feels like every situation there's a massive reaction to the one littlest thing. So, in talking with him and talking to the players, what has been your initial impression of your new head coach? Just his intelligence. I think how he handles the group. I think he knows, that we have a good team. I think he's confident. I know he's ready to get back in the building so we can learn the offense and get that stuff down. It's very difficult to do it over Zoom, but really, the energy's high. We have a bunch of young coaches, so a bunch of young bulls ready to come in and take things by the horn. So, from that standpoint, I know everybody's hungry, but right now I think their main focus is to try to get this offense handled in or as much as we can before training camp, so we're not, behind the ball whenever that happens. Obviously, a lot of the reasons that Doug isn't there is whatever happened between him and Carson and how Jalen was brought in and all that kind of stuff. If someone was to ask you right now, when I say the words Doug Pederson, what's the first thing that comes to mind? We miss him. You have a guy in your life for 4 or 5 years, you're seeing every day, and then that happens, and then they're gone. It's like having a guy on your team that you played with, for a while, and all of a sudden they're traded to another team. It's a bittersweet, but I appreciate everything he's done for us, for the team, for the city of Philadelphia, and I don't know where he is. Hopefully he's fishing and having a good time. So I just appreciate everything he's done for us. And we'll see how quickly he gets back into it when things shake out a little bit. You mentioned you were part of that 2013 draft class, you and Zach Ertz. That was one of the weirdest drafts of all time because 3 of the first 4 picks were offensive linemen. Eric Fisher, that went to Kansas City and has had a great career there. Hope he gets healed from the Achilles injury, which didn't allow him to play in the Super Bowl. Then Luke Joeckel went very high to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you went out of Oklahoma to the Eagles. I don't think that's ever going to happen again, right? The way the game is played now and the value placed on quarterbacks, we're talking about 5, potentially 6 quarterbacks going in the first round of the 2021 draft. How weird does it feel now to look back all those years later and say, I was one of 3 of the first 4 picks were offensive linemen? Yeah, it is weird. And you look back at it because we haven't seen nothing like that since. But, the priority is, you have these big name guys. You got the Aaron Rodgers. You got to have the guys to go out and protect them. And with the way that the defenses are now, you have really premier pass rushers on both sides. So, the tackle position has always been, one of those positions going to be paid well. But at the same time, you got a job to do. I'd put it right out there with cornerback. It's a difficult position. At the same time, it has its benefits. But it was definitely a weird year. I don't think anything like that will happen again. It's starting to be, it's always been the quarterback league, but it's only amplifying. Yeah. And the worst part about being an offensive lineman, unless you're one of the best, as you said, like the only time you get recognized if there's a penalty. Oh, he gave up a sack. Oh, we're holding. So I imagine there had to be a big part of you that kind of loved what you saw in the Super Bowl between the Bucs and the Chiefs, because at the end of the day,
That was an ass whooping on the offensive line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Like people talk about the cover 2 safeties and all that kind of stuff. I get all that. But you give Patrick Mahomes time, he's still going to be able to do his stuff. And what we saw, this is my philosophy in football, and I believe this. My son was an offensive lineman. I'm not biased, but I believe this my entire life. Football is a game where one wall of men tries to dominate another wall of men, which allows everything else to happen. And boy, that was the case on Super Bowl Sunday. As an offensive lineman, you had to kind of love that because it sort of said, see, we matter, because the Chiefs line was decimated and they were destroyed up front.
Yeah, I kind of got a similar vibe from whenever the Broncos played the Carolina Panthers, and how Vaughn and DeMarcus Ware took over that game.
Yeah.
How it made it a rough. If you don't have anybody to block the edges, or you have guys screaming off the edge like that, then you have guys on the inside like a Vita Vea, and then and Ndamukong Suh pressing the guys interior. It just, collapse that pocket, and it doesn't matter who's back there. If you have the world's greatest, you don't have time to throw, or you're flushing guys out of the pocket, it makes everything not as easy as what it's supposed to be. But yeah, man, I mean, yeah, you're going to get Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. Those two guys are the real deal.
Yeah. Now are you a guy that watches the Super Bowl every year? Because I know some guys refuse to watch if they're not playing it. So where are you on that front?
I really don't watch football outside of it. I made a joke to Pat McAfee that it's like, a police officer coming home and watching Cops. It's, yeah, I watched the Super Bowl, and I didn't really have a team I was picking for. I guess, one of my buddies plays deep snapper. Winchester plays for the Chiefs. I have a few guys in Tampa Bay, so I wasn't really rooting for anybody, but.
Yeah, it's like I have friends of mine that are lawyers, and they like refuse to watch any LA shows. Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, there's no way this actually happens, right?
Yeah.
So can you be a passive observer, or if you're watching a game, do you sort of get into, like, I know some players that really either they watch the ball for the first time, or they just watch their position when they're watching a game.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm watching our position. And then, I can't really sit there and watch the whole game. I watch bits and pieces. If I see somebody get beat, I'm like, I don't want to watch that. It's like bad memories. Even like watching film during the week, I don't like watching film of the guy I'm going against, because usually the coach will put up his highlight film of him just destroying everybody. And so what am I gaining out of that other than probably diminishing my confidence a little bit? But really, for my position, everything is based off what I present him. So if I'm high in my set, well, he's probably going to bull rush me. If I'm lunging, it's all about what I present him. So if I can go out and kick fast and get a good set line in, a lot of times I'm in a good spot.
You grew up in Texas, and you're playing for the Eagles, and obviously you play the Cowboys twice a year. Were you a Cowboys fan growing up?
I was a Green Bay Packers fan. I was a huge Brett Favre fan growing up, but I had some family members that had a lot of Dallas Cowboys memorabilia in the living room. So
I do remember one time you almost had to tell your grandmother to shut up because we were playing. There was the week for the Cowboys, right? I
did tell her. It wasn't almost. I did. And screaming for them, and I'm like, hey, "What the hell are you doing?" So I said, "If you want to live to see 75, I said you better stop what you're doing."
How'd that go over with the rest of the family?
She laughed a little bit, and then she started cooking, I think. So it wasn't too bad. She took scoldings and just went forward. She just pressed through. So she was a good sport on that.
She was a trooper. She was an offensive lineman at heart.
Hey, yeah.
Shit comes at you sideways, and I got to do it.
We call the O-line room the Mushroom Society, because you're fed shit, and you just got to make something out of it.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we stop feeding shit right now, take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about Super Bowl 52 and what happens going forward with the Eagles, all right?
Yes, sir.
Here on Half Forgotten History, our legends have racked up awards including MVPs, championships, and Hall of Fame busts. And if you're looking for a credit card, you should probably want one that wins awards too. The U.S. Bank Visa Platinum card is NerdWallet's 2021 Best of Awards winner for 0% intro APR and balance transfer credit card. It provides a great way to pay for large purchases over time, as well as consolidating other card balances. And speaking of award winners, the U.S. Bank Altitude Go Visa Signature Card is NerdWallet's 2021 best credit card for dining out or ordering in. Earn 4 times points on takeout, food delivery, and dining. Get 2 times points on gas stations, grocery stores, and on streaming. And if you're into cashback or travel rewards, U.S. Bank has credit cards that feature those benefits as well. Check out the full suite of credit cards at usbank.com/credit card. The creditor and issuer of these cards is U.S. Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated, and the cards are available to U.S. residents only. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC. March's biggest tournament is finally here, and we don't know who's going to be cutting down the nets in the end, but we know there's going to be no shortage of March Madness, right? And DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new customers in the center of attention. Bet $4 on an underdog, and you win $256 if they win. It is literally that simple. Turning $4 into $256 is 64 to 1 odds. Smart math. Every dollar you bet could turn into 64 bucks. Pick one of many select college basketball underdogs for your shot at winning $256. All it takes is a $4 bet. There's no better way to put your college basketball knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook app. Don't worry if college basketball isn't for you. DraftKings Sportsbook offers great odds and promotions on golf and hockey and almost anything else. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. So just download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code WINGO when you sign up to turn $4 into $256 if the underdog of your choosing pulls off the upset. That's code WINGO to turn $4 into $256 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only, new customers only, and some restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Microsoft Teams is helping Priority Bicycles reinvent the way they work. When the pandemic hit, the bike shop had to close their New York City showroom. Now, they found a way to reopen by doing virtual visits on Teams. And now the team can meet with 2 or 3 times the number of customers they could before, and people from all over the world can visit their showroom. Learn more about their story and others at Microsoft.com/Teams. All right, back with more with Lane Johnson, or I should say David Lane Johnson. Now, not many people know that. You just have always gone by your middle name?
Yeah, when I do something stupid, they like to call me David. But
you get your full name. You get the full name treatment. David Lane Johnson, come over here right now.
Yeah, they'll just call me David. If I'm being stupid and ignorant, and they'll just call me David. But today I'm Lane.
Okay. Well, listen, because I don't want to get the shit kicked out of me from the Bro Barn. You're always Lane with me. So 2017 was so weird. Like, you guys were on top of the world for most of that year. You made it look easy for most of the year. You know, you jump out to that great start. And I remember after every game, the team was dancing on the sidelines, dancing on the field after a big win. And then obviously it all changed in that game against the Rams, which you won when Carson went down. When that happened, what was your initial reaction?
What a tough blow that was, just because the season he was having and the momentum that we had. But you got a sense of confidence when Foles came in there and then finished off the game. We won. You know, I think we had 2 more games after that, and we were trying to, be polished before we make the playoffs, and we didn't look very good at all. So going into the playoffs, I felt like we had no pressure on us. We weren't, expected to do a whole lot. So really going in, we had nothing to lose. And I feel like that's, a big reason why we may have played so well.
Well, you started the whole underdog mask thing, right? You and Chris Long sort of adopted that. When did that idea come up? How did that sort of germinate? How did that start?
It all came up because, we were supposed to be, or I guess we were number 1 seed that year. And then, Carson gets hurt, and then we're expected to get beat by Atlanta. And then, we're the city of Philadelphia, Rocky, and you got that mantra going. I was like, well, makes sense. And Chris was talking about it, and he's, said, once you get a type of a mask or something. So I ordered that mask, and hey, they were $12, Trey. And then, after that whole underdog thing went off, they went up to 42. So the mask companies, they did quite well that year.
Then we get to the game. That was one of the weirdest Super Bowls I can ever remember, because I have this thing, and I believe in this. Quarterbacks, wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. Teams win games, teams win championships, teams lose games. Mm-hmm. Like, you could make the argument that was the best Super Bowl Tom Brady ever played. Threw for 300 yards in the first half, 500 plus yards in the entire game, and they lost. Yeah, 505, and they lost. So, like, that game had so many weird things that went on. The Philly special is just, a small part of that. When in the first half of that game did you think, yeah, it's just like we thought, we can hang with these guys?
Yeah, my main focus was just to have good set lines, and if James Harrison comes on my side, make sure you get ready because he's going to try to pull you into the quarterback. But yeah, I mean, it went by so fast. The first half, we were scoring points. It's just we had such good momentum, and then the second half was really, when he got the ball back 2 minutes ago, I was like, well, if this isn't a more storybook inning for Tom to get another one on us. Brandon has that strip sack, and it's like, hey, we're about to win this thing. But it was just, it was such a fun, exciting game. I think it was the most yards ever recorded, maybe in the game. I know in the Super Bowl, and most points ever scored. So it was really, I know from an entertainment standpoint, it was right up there. But I mean, whenever you get to that point in the season, you're in February, you start this thing really, April, it's really a year-long process. By the time you get to that game, you're just so ready to play. Not really thinking a whole lot about anything and just going out there and doing what you've been trained to do all year.
When they called the Philly special, what was your reaction?
I said yes, because this is a play that I cannot mess up. It is a bootleg run, simple, just run left for the O-line. But he had the snap count where he called my name, so I was making sure not to jump off sides. That was my main focus. So easy job for the O-line up front. We had it in the game plan for a few weeks, and I felt like, well, if there's any time we should call it now. So I got a free play out of it. Foles caught a touchdown. It was easy, and one of the best plays of Super Bowl history.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because it speaks to the mindset you have to have as an offensive lineman or really as a football player. It's like you're not thinking about the grand scheme of the play. The only thing you're thinking about is what is my responsibility and how can I or can I not mess it up?
Yeah, and what people don't realize is when we go to the facility, like as an offense, we'll meet as a group for a little bit, maybe 20, 30 minutes, and then you're with your position coach most of the time. So I'm with Coach Stoutland, pretty much all day, every day. And then, Fridays and Saturdays we'll have offensive meetings and that, but really you're with, your position coach all the time.
So the Hail Mary to Gronk falls short. That's it. Game over. I always like to ask people this question. When you finally realize the clock struck zero, and you guys had won the Super Bowl, which means you're now a part of history, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
First thing is I'm used to seeing everybody go crazy when the confetti's falling, so I just stayed seated for about 20 seconds and watch everybody go nuts. And then first guy I see is Coach Mike Groh and give him a hug. And then, man, just it felt really special for the older guys. I remember Brent Selleck was talking about, I guess he was in an NFC championship game early in his career, and he was like, and they lost, and he was like, man, I'll be back. And then he gave us a speech, said, I'm here 11 years later, and you don't get very many opportunities. So to have guys like that, Chris, Jason Peters, the guys that have been around the league for a long time, to get that was very special. Torrey Smith, the good thing about that team, man, we had the perfect blend of, young guys and then the veteran leadership too. So just a perfect storm and something we got to get back to.
I'm glad you mentioned Selleck because I had Zach on, and Ertz told me he was the worst crier he's ever seen in his life. Like I don't know how you sort of judge or rate crime. He was a terrible crier. Did you get the same impression?
He just had one of the ugly faces when he cries. Just you good over there? But Selleck, man, one of my favorite teammates. Quite a character himself if you get to know him.
So that, speaking of characters, now that leads up to the celebration. Which in Philadelphia, they've been waiting there, and Eagle fans have been waiting their entire life for this. I mean, that's, I guess, why you eat horse crap at the victory parade. You got Long up there in a fur coat. You're up there wearing ski goggles and I think Zubash pants. And then, of course, we have Kelsey dressed up as a mummer. That might have been one of the craziest, wildest parades I can remember in Super Bowl history.
I just remember being on the buses and you just saw people just on the ground. You saw people in trees, you saw people on top of buildings. It was like, don't even know how to explain it. It was like you're in a video game. As the parade went longer, as we got closer to our final destination, people got more intoxicated.
No, get out of here.
Things got a little bit more blurry. A lot of good stuff was said at the podium. Yeah, man, it was fun. It was a blur. And what people don't realize, man, is that, after all that stuff's over, it's about 2 months and you're already back for OTAs. So it's a short process, but definitely, man, it's just a city. Has just been waiting to erupt like that for years. And you could just tell. And I know what a lot of people had a lot of good times that week.
Well, Philly's an interesting city. I think it kind of gets a bad rap in terms of the fans. I think they're some of the most passionate sports fans out there. And sure, there are instances where things have gone over the line, but at least they care. And at least you know where they stand, right? Like there's not a single Philly sports fan that is going to sugarcoat anything. And on some level, you have to respect that.
Yeah, in a way, we respect it because it makes you be the best version of yourself because you're scared. I mean, you can see how it is in 1 year, what it can do to a player or really anybody. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's an intimidating place to play. I remember getting drafted, first round. I got Jason Peters, a Hall of Famer, on the left side. I'm supposed to be just like this guy, and it takes time. I mean, you're never through growing or trying to become the player you want to, but passion. I just think they're misunderstood. That's what it is. They're just misunderstood a little bit.
We just need to delve a little bit more into the Eagle fan psyche, and we'll all understand it.
It's psychological analysis. That's all you need.
But you mentioned Peters, and he's a freak show. He was also a tight end, but he never played quarterback. But I don't think people truly understand what a freaking athletic talent that Jason Peters is. What can you tell us about him?
Well, I remember our first weigh-in, I believe he weighed 355, 360. And so, coming out, one of our guys that coached me in college, Joe John Finley, who's back there coaching tight ends at OU, he played with Joe Staley. He's like, man, you're a lot like Joe Staley. Joe Staley's 315. I'm trying to be like him. And I come in, I see Jason Peters weighing 360. I'm like, there's no way this dude can move that big,
He can fly.
He just sprawls, a lot of time in his pass that he sprawls out just like a big bear and just engulfs people. But I was like, whoa, man, there's levels to this. But one thing I could take away from his game right away is my movement skills are pretty similar. But obviously he had to get stronger, absorb the bull rush better. But I like the way that he always played the game. I love his athletic jump sets. I love just really his mentality when he plays. And so the guys I like watching was him. Trent Williams came out of OU before me. So I saw him. But I like their styles of play, their style of play. They're brawlers. And I think it's like a fighter. Everybody has their own style doing their job.
Is there a pride in Oklahoma offensive linemen and how many have come out and done well in the NFL? Did you guys all communicate?
Yeah, Orlando, Trent. I mean, Jamal was there. Jamal's a little bit older. We got Creed Humphrey out. A few guys, Ben Powers, been there with the Ravens now. Yeah, we take pride in it. They got a good coach there, Bill Bedenbaugh, man. It's just a factory, QB factory at OU, and then they're putting out O linemen every year. So we take pride in it, and hopefully it just keeps climbing.
Yeah, it's been very, very productive. You mentioned something which I thought was interesting. You said you need to be able to deal with the Eagles fans because if you don't, it can really disrupt you. This happens every time when someone leaves a city. And I always say, well, if it was a problem when they were winning, why it's only seems to be a problem when they're losing. And a lot of people have said since Carson left, well, he didn't handle this well, or he didn't handle that well. And I always feel like that's a bunch of garbage because I don't think Carson changed. I think he was the same guy, but it didn't matter as long as you were winning, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at this where we're at in Philly, as far as being under the microscope, you are. And so if you can ignore it and just don't even have it in your brain, if you can just focus on, hey, I'm a football player, what can I do to maximize myself, practice better, eliminate the distractions, and your head will be clear and you'll play better. But if you get caught up in the shuffle and, where am I going to be next year? What if I keep playing like this? And I've been there. Everybody's been there. At this city, it can, it just distracts you from where you're at. So having a clear mindset is key in trying to reset every offseason. But like I said, man, Philadelphia demands greatness. They demand respect, and they want the team to win. And so, hey, we do too.
Carson was going to be the MVP in 2017 before he got hurt. And then he has to watch Nick go on and take you guys to the Super Bowl, win Super Bowl MVP. Then he gets hurt the next year, and you see Nick come back in, win a couple of games, and it looked like you guys were going to beat the Saints until, the drop. Did that weigh on him, do you think? That the Foles thing was sort of always there?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a gloomy hangover for somebody having to deal with. I mean, but at the same time, everybody's argument is, well, he's getting paid this, he's getting paid that. Yeah. At the end of the day, money's money and people are people. So people are going to react to different things. So it may have been in his psyche, but moving forward, I mean, I think we knew that in the offseason it wasn't a good fit maybe anymore. I know he was ready to kind of make a new home, new transition. And I feel like, the Frank deal going to Indianapolis I think we knew that all along, what was going to happen.
Well, listen, they worked together so well when he was back with you. So hopefully that'll be the case going forward. Okay. I always like to do this, right? I always like to get a teammate, current or former teammate, to give me some real good information before I have somebody on. I reached out to one of your former teammates. First thing he says to me is ask him about his future in wrestling. You want to be a wrestler when all this is said and done?
Jim Ross was JR, who was an announcer for WWE. He was always at our games, and he would just whisper in my ear every now and then, hey, football don't work out. Hey, I got you a spot. So I feel like in my heart I want to be a wrestler, but we'll see what happens when the football's done. But yeah, I would love to. It's something you never had to grow up in. Seems like a lot of fun.
Would you be a wrestler or a wrestler?
May start out as a wrestler, and then you get your promos going and you get that mean streak in, and then you become a wrestler.
Yeah, you got to. I guess that's the best way to set it, right? You start as a wrestler, and then if you have the chops, you become a wrestler, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got that flair. You got that something to you.
Yeah, you got to work your way up to the long A, wrestling. He also said, make sure you talk about your dad being a rodeo guy. So tell me a little bit about your dad. And those rodeo guys, they don't mess around now. So I can understand why you want to be a wrestler and a pro football player if your dad was working rodeo.
Yeah, so my dad was actually a bull rider. So he did that growing up. Yeah, so he actually in high school, he was about 6'1" when he graduated. And then after high school, he grew to he's 6'6", 6'7". So imagine him, he's on a bull, but most of these guys that are competing are 5'5" or 5'6". So a lot of the bull riders are little. So he's a pretty athletic guy. He's been doing construction his whole life. Very country guy, very funny. I would say he would probably have a pretty funny Netflix special with all the jokes that he has. And he's a very entertaining guy.
He's been looking for 8 since they pulled that gate, as George Strait once famously said. So listen, I can understand why you're an offensive lineman if your dad was a bull rider. Damn, that shit ain't easy.
I mean, he did high jump and track in high school. He played quarterback too, but then I think he just, he had to work a lot in high school, so he didn't really play a whole lot.
Speaking of impressive, you have been very effusive in passing it back or paying it forward. And you were very generous to Kilgore. You gave them, $500,000 to set up something. Why was that important to you?
It's important to me because people don't understand the JUCO life or even been to a junior college or know what it's like. But a lot of it is people are there to transition themselves to where they want to be. So a lot of guys are maybe non-qualifiers or didn't get the scholarship that they wanted out of high school. And now they're at a place where they can go Division I. So I was telling, when I was down there that my first game I played quarterback, and I had Levante David at linebacker for Fort Scott, and I had Jason Pierre-Paul at defensive end. So those are the type of talents you get. And I've mentioned Last Chance U on Netflix. You get a chance to watch that. You get to see.
Oh, it's great.
A lot of these kids, it's uncertainties. Nothing's guaranteed. But what I've seen some of the best athletes I've ever seen in football come from there. And I've seen some of the best people. So a lot of these coaches, they're nonstop trying to get these guys' grades up, get them qualified. So it's a lot of almost like, they're a fatherly figure over these kids because, a lot of stuff's going on during that semester. But really, they didn't have a facility that they all shared the weight room with the regular students. So they didn't really have a separate weight room for the football team or really for anybody else to use. So it was big for them. It was big for the coaches that were there whenever I was there. So Willie Gooden was the offensive line coach when I was there. Now he's the head coach. So, man, seeing him happy, seeing those kids happy, that's what it's all about. And I know it'll be put to good use, over the next few years.
That's awesome. And a great job by you making sure that other people get the opportunity that you had to make sure that continues. So listen, I know you have your own podcast. Tell me about that podcast. Where can people catch it?
Man, we did Outside the Lane last year. We haven't really gotten on the ball this year. We may change it to something else. I'm not, it's really just kind of a test trial. But what I have found is that I enjoy interviewing people. I love, guys that I've maybe watched or emulated growing up and getting to pick their brains and what their life was like in their profession. And really, man, when you come out of it, you feel like you have a greater respect for them and what they've done. So it's been a lot of fun. And I was doing it on IG Live last year. So if I had a, nice studio set up and maybe more scripted.
Dude, the Bro Barn works. The Bro Barn works as your studio. Trust me on this. All right. You've got it right there.
So maybe get my lighting right, maybe get my costume right. And maybe my production value will be just a little bit better.
So in 10 years from now, are we going to see Lane Johnson breaking down football games on a network, or are we going to see Lane Johnson throwing down, having achieved wrestler status?
Hey, I may be out there getting involved with a Big Show out there in AEW wrestling or wherever he's at. So maybe getting chokeslammed by the Big Show. So I'm hoping that happens.
Boom. We look forward to seeing you getting chokeslammed. And that's the strangest thing I think I've ever said to a guest here on Half Forgotten History. Hey, Lane, always a fan. Appreciate your time, brother. Be well, be safe. We look forward to getting you back out there in 2021.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you.
So big ups and thanks to Lane Johnson for joining us. And after his playing days are over, we all look forward to him being a wrestler with a capital W when it's all said and done. Don't forget to use the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and when you do download or use it, make sure you put in the promo code WINGO at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. But coming up on our next episode of Half Forgotten History in Season 2, we had so much great stuff with Kurt Warner, we really couldn't fit it all into one episode. So a bonus Kurt Warner edition talking about his Super Bowl experiences, and we put together a little compilation of what it's like for all the players that we talked to when I asked them, what was the first thing that went through your head when you saw that confetti fall and you realized you had pulled off your lifelong dream and you were a Super Bowl champ? So all that and much more on the Season 2 finale of Half Forgotten History with Kurt Warner. But believe me, there is so much more ahead. We'll see you then.